World War I incited the first ever battle between more than 30 countries for land and resources, leading to advancements in military technology and an imbalance of power in most countries. However, what is often overlooked is how this warfare affects the everyday life of civilians. You see, World War I was defined as a total war, or a conflict in which the war takes over every part of society. The four things that are to look out for to define a war as this are mobilization, refusal to compromise, which we will not explore much today, blurring of lines between soldier and civilian, and total control of society, which is what we're interested in. Civilians took the brunt of the war because they were amidst economic warfare and constant changes in their life. But this led to some good changes too.
Propaganda played a crucial role in the opinions and actions of civilians. Propaganda from both sides of the war was created to instill nationalism, portray military service as a heroic endeavor, encourage civilians to buy war bonds, ration their consumption, and participate in various fundraising activities to finance the military campaign.
Take your posters, see how you can become the next hero.
Whoa, look at these flyers, guys!
They're recruiting men for the war against Germany. We should apply. I'll bet all the girls will be over me when they see me coming home as a war hero.
Oh my god, you're right, but we're only 16.
Is that you had 20, is that you had 20 to be dry?
So who cares about the rules if there's a fame? Are you doing this with me or not?
Yeah.
But propaganda also created an atmosphere of social pressure since people were obligated to support war efforts. If they showed anti-war opinions, they were often ostracized by society.
Don't you think that our soldiers are fighting too much? I mean, the last news that I heard was that German soldiers ambushed through Belgium, a neutral country. I mean, imagine if any country did that to us.
Oh, keep quiet. Don't spit rubbish like that. The German military is beautiful, and they are doing what they must do for our government. We cannot say this out loud, and don't you dare say it to anyone outside of this home.
You! Yes, you, the pretty girl. Do you miss your husband because he's out fighting the war? Do you feel useless and feel like you have no purpose in life with nothing to do? Well, I have the perfect solution for you.
You do?
Simply enlist in the Navy or become a nurse in the workforce or work in one of these wonderful factories.
Wow, so many job opportunities. Does this mean I will have more respect and rights as a woman?
Sure, why not?
Before the war, most societies around Europe and other countries involved patriarchal traits, like women typically being housewives, them lacking rights, etc. However, during the various jobs that were opened to women, they were able to move forward the feminist movement and break stereotypes. These women are a big reason soldiers were able to get food and weapons, that they had good medical help, and that all typically menial jobs were taken up. For instance, the Hello Girls were an important group of women for the Allied powers. They were in charge of being telegraph operators and relaying important messages across the nation in the fights.
Economic warfare is when countries take certain action to deliberately weaken the economy of another. This can only be understood by understanding the definition of economy. Economy is the distribution of scarce resources. In economic warfare, countries take these resources away from other countries. For example, it was not uncommon for the Allies to bomb ships, boycott products of the Central Powers, or to create a blockade like Britain when they restricted Germany's access to the supply of food and products from its colonies in Africa, and vice versa.
Mom, Dad, I'm starving. Getting food is tough now, dear, because our country's food supply is getting destroyed.
Governments mobilized their economies for the war effort, creating job opportunities, but also bringing inflation and hardship.
Mom, I want candy. Dear, we can't afford the things that we used to. Everything is limited now.
The government had to put in place some regulations to protect and support their civilians from the effects of economic warfare. Industries such as the fuel industry and food administration made civilian life a bit easier by providing whatever little resources they had to spare. Not to say this always happened or was successful, but this was the ultimate goal.
Oh man, the wool that we used to make our clothes blew up in some supply ship last week apparently. What do we do now? How are we going to survive this cold season? Not only that, the factories that we work at, they don't have any wool either. Don't you worry. We have some extra supplies. They're not that many, but I think they should be enough to not only keep us warm, but to run our factories for just a little bit longer. All right? We're trying to help you out. Oh, good. I'm so glad.
During World War I, Britain passed the Defense of the Realm Act, DORA, which was meant to protect the safety of civilians not involved in the fighting.
Excuse me. Hey, mister, what are you doing? You can't be out here on the streets. What? Why? For your protection and for the protection of the country, citizens are not allowed to be loitering or whistling or... Miss! Hey, miss, show me that letter that you're holding.
Sorry, sir, I was just writing to my husband in the military.
Oh, sorry, miss. If this letter is being sent to the military, it needs to be checked by the government.
I was not aware, sorry.
As a result of the constant war, the land, air, and wildlife was greatly affected. Trench warfare completely changed the land, and pollution and chemical weapons created ecological turmoil. Huge bombings of cities and towns impacted the civilians living there. Homes were destroyed, and the air was not safe to go out. Things like chlorine, phosgene, and mustard gases asphyxiated animals and humans.
Hey, I'm a journalist and I would like to interview you on how your city is doing because of the war.
Yeah, sure, I can do an interview.
Do you think this war had any impact on the city's environment?
Yes, it definitely had a big impact on the city's environment.
What do you think are the initiative impacts?
Personally, I think the biggest initiative impact is the big change of landforms. There's been massive military activity which has caused huge environmental damage already.
And has the chemical weapons caused contamination of soil and water sources?
Oh yes, definitely. It has affected our ecosystems and it's affecting our neighborhoods. I'm afraid of going out because I'm afraid of getting sick or getting hurt because of the chemicals.
Well, thank you for the interview.
The Germans were preparing a new offensive. Its code name was Gericht, judgment. An offensive needs supplies. This was just one of 10 new railway lines that the Germans were edging forward, sleeper by sleeper, rail by rail, scalpels cutting into the heart of France. A few miles away to the west, 10 miles behind the French line, lay their objective, Verdun.
Verdun was the great fortress whose name had for centuries not ceased to haunt Germanic...